I'm Carol Myers.
And I'm Michael LeBeau.
With Newswrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending June 20th, 2020. The United Nations is calling for the debunked practice of conversion therapy to be banned everywhere. A new report documents the negative impact of the so-called treatment that's supposed to push queer people down a straight and narrow path. The report concludes that it's a scientifically bogus invention that leads nowhere. Researchers underscored how particularly horrific the practice is on minors who have no legal right to control their own healthcare decisions. They found that the young fall prey as a result of the desire of parents or guardians to have them conform to expectations, either their or their communities, regarding sexual orientation and gender identity. The document was issued by the UN's independent expert on sexual orientation and gender identity, Victor Madrigal-Borloz. NBC News reports that it faced a lot of pushback from a number of states. Outright Action International's Sahar Mozami said, "It's been controversial, as they say at the UN. There were conversion therapy practitioners in at least 68 countries identified in the report, but researchers suggest that it's virtually a global pandemic and, in many cases, a lucrative business for providers around the world." Outright Action International can only find 5 countries that have outright bans on conversion therapy: Brazil, Ecuador, Germany, Malta, and Taiwan. Canada is considering becoming number 6. There are regional bans in a number of other countries.
Poland's president, Andrzej Duda, is playing the queer card again in his bid for re-election. In recent speeches, Duda is claiming that what he calls LGBT+ ideology is just like communist indoctrination in the former Soviet Union. He says, "They are trying to convince us that they are people, but this is an ideology." His family charter includes promises to prohibit the propagation of this ideology and defend the institution of marriage defined as a relationship between a woman and a man. After about 100 pro-queer protesters surprised him at a campaign rally on June 15th, Duda invited them to meet with him. Only 29-year-old filmmaker Bartosz Staszewski agreed. Other activists demanded a public apology for Duda's inflammatory and dehumanizing comments first. The incumbent also invited his openly gay left-wing challenger to the meeting, Warsaw Mayor Robert Biedroń. Biedroń joined the call for Duda's public apology, which, of course, never came. A presidential spokesperson called Duda's meeting with Staszewski good and constructive. However, the activist said that he spent more than an hour talking and displaying photos of young Polish people who had died by suicide and gay people in Auschwitz, then finally stood up and walked out without a perfunctory handshake after Duda kept insisting that campaigning against LGBT+ ideology was a free speech issue. Duda can expect a friendlier visit with someone who has an affinity for right-wing autocrats. He'll be President Donald Trump's first White House visitor since the COVID-19 pandemic began. That meeting is set for June 24th.
The Trump administration took a licking in litigation this week. The U.S. Supreme Court declared on June 15th that LGBTQ people are protected from workplace discrimination by federal civil rights laws banning bias based on sex. We'll have comprehensive coverage of that groundbreaking decision following Newswrap. Yet another legal setback may have gotten lost in the high court headlines. A federal district judge ruled that a U.S. gay couple's daughter born in Canada via surrogate is indeed a U.S. citizen. Mike Pompeo's State Department essentially argued that the child was born out of wedlock because one of her married parents is not her biological parent. U.S. District Judge Theodore Chuen disagreed. He ruled that the daughter of Rui and Adiel Caviti was a U.S. citizen at birth, born of married parents who were both U.S. citizens who had legally resided in the country before her birth. The Cavitis are naturalized U.S. citizens. They were each born in Israel, but came to the U.S. separately. Their daughter Kesem was born in February 2019. The family was represented by attorneys from the queer advocacy groups Immigration Equality and Lambda Legal. Lambda Legal attorney Oscar Gonzalez Pagan helped argue the case. He celebrated with a tweet saying, Today's victory confirms once again that married same-sex couples cannot be carved out from laws tied to marriage. A State Department official had no further comment for the Washington Blade on June 17th, beyond saying that it is reviewing the decision with the Department of Justice. The Cofidis lawsuit is reportedly just one of 5 cases challenging how the State Department, under Trump sycophant Mike Pompeo, mistreats married same-gender couples.
Just in time for Pride Month, the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri is celebrating its first openly gay black bishop. The Right Reverend Dion Kevin Johnson was born in Barbados and has been an Episcopal priest since 2003. He was consecrated on June 13th at Christ Church Cathedral in St. Louis. He marveled during his ordination service that a descendant of a slave could be called to be the Bishop of Missouri. God is good, he said, according to the Episcopal News Service. It only took 179 years. Johnson went on to say, "We must be about the mission of working for justice and showing God's love in this time and place. We must be about the mission of speaking truth to power and making no peace with oppression." The new bishop marched in recent Black Lives Matter protests in St. Louis and said in a statement that fear would tell us that dignity belongs to some and not to others. As followers of Jesus, we must live and know that perfect love casts out fear.
Finally, 2 new openly gay stars were added to the arts and athletics universe this week. Popular Spanish crooner Pablo Elberon posted a 3-minute video on Instagram declaring,
Y hoy quiero que mi grito se haga un poco más fuerte.
I want my voice to be louder and for it to have more value and weight.
Estoy aquí para
I'm
contaros
here
que soy
to tell you that
homosexual,
I am homosexual, and it's okay.
que no pasa nada.
Elberon has been nominated for a number of Latin Grammy Awards and has released several albums. He went on to say,
Que la vida sigue igual.
life goes on.
Yo necesito
Everything
ser un
will
poquito más
remain the
feliz de lo que ya
same,
era.
but I'm going to be a little happier than I already am. He described a supportive upbringing that allowed him to find his true self, but noted that many other LGBTQ people have not been so lucky. He said,
Pero que esto,
I hope I can make
y este
somebody's
mensaje le haga el
journey
camino más
easier
fácil
with
a
this
alguien.
message. But
Pero
above
sobre todo
all,
esto,
I do this for me.
lo hago por mí.
Elberon also said that he wanted to focus on his music career and not on being a high-profile queer activist.
Chilean pro basketball player Daniel Arcos decided to love and value himself by coming out, declaring himself to now be proud and free in a 3-page letter. The 26-year-old 6'3" small forward for CD Castro said that he had struggled with shame and self-acceptance for a long time. Leading Chilean advocacy group, the Homosexual Movement of Integration and Liberation, applauded Arcos for making a significant contribution to other players who may find themselves in a situation of grief or pain for not being able to reveal who they are. Arcos' lengthy letter included saying, I am convinced that sport can include us all, but as long as issues like this are not visible and made natural, it will be difficult to advance. Respect is essential and the minimum we need to live in a better society free of prejudice.
That's Newswrap, global queer news with attitude for the week ending June 20th, 2020. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
Newswrap is usually recorded in the studios of KPFK Los Angeles, but we're recording remotely during the COVID-19 emergency. The news is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can listen to Newswrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out Radio YouTube channel. For This Way Out, I'm Michael LeBeau. Stay healthy.
And I'm Carol Myers. Stay safe.